We're here with the second episode of Agency Intensive. I'm Richard Hill, your host. Now, in this episode, I speak to Chris Thomas, CEO at Cake Agency. We go deep on nailing your niche with Cake's tagline, the only e-commerce agency founded by retailers for retailers. This one really resonated with me. Chris and I stepped through his journey from store owner to agency owner and how this hits home with Chris's perfect ICPs. Some of the decisions that Chris has made that have shaped the culture at Cake today. And Chris's advice on hiring and retaining those superstars. And I asked Chris what keeps him up at night. And so much more in this one. Now, do me one favour, hit the subscribe or follow button wherever you're listening to this podcast so you're always the first to know when a new episode is released. Now, let's head over to this fantastic episode. Hi Chris, how you doing?
Yeah, good, thanks Richard. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for coming on the Agency Intensive podcast.
I got the blue top memo.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good match. That's a good start, isn't it?
Good start.
This was brand new yesterday, actually, especially for you.
Oh, there you go. Feel privileged. Honoured.
Well, thanks for coming on the show. I'm really excited to have a good chat with you because I think we've got similar stories, but I'm sure some similar war wounds maybe along the way.
Yeah.
So I think it'd be great for you to kick off, introduce yourself to our listeners and how you got into the agency world.
Yeah, sure. Thanks again, Richard. Yeah, my name's Chris. I'm the CEO and founder of an agency called Cake Agency. We're an e-commerce agency based in Birmingham. We've been going for about 7 years now. My career pre-agency was as an online retailer. So I got into online retail right back in the birth of e-commerce, really back in 2002, through various events that happened in my family life. I was training as an accountant in London at the time with KPMG, but I was presented with a family business to take over, and that was a high street store in Birmingham called the Oasis, which was a legendary store in Birmingham as like an independent fashion hub. And we thought we'd have a go at online retail, which in 2002 was still the days of dial-up connections. And, you probably knew the internet e-commerce for buying knockoff CDs from Hong Kong or something and so on. But we thought we'd have a go at putting some of the product that we had available online. And we were pushing an open door on that front. And we put a pair of Dr. Martens online, and within half an hour they'd sold somewhere outside of the UK. I think it was New Zealand. And we just thought, well, this is interesting. so we just pushed at that door for the next 15 years. And it was a fantastic story to be part of, full of highs and lows. Of running a retail business firstly, but then also doing it online. And online was like the Wild West in the noughties, and you just had to kind of get stuck in and make the best of it. And so I built my skills and my knowledge really in retail first and foremost. And then when I exited that business, agency found me. I didn't really find the agency, so it kind of happened very by accident, really.
Yeah. But I guess you took that knowledge from retailing, and how you'd managed to, I guess, back then scrape a website together almost, maybe back in the day.
well, absolutely. I mean, our first website, I've still got screenshots of it because it was something like 32 clicks to make a purchase, and it would take 2 or 3 minutes to download a product page. Very, very, very cumbersome, but unbelievable. As I say, we were making sales from day one. So it was really. I mean, I find it quite amusing that I'm running an agency because, in my time as a retailer, I hated agencies. I mean, I had very.
Isn't that still the case for most retailers?
I think it is out there, and I understand where it comes from. It's. I had high skepticism, high cynicism of it. I don't think the traditional agency model suited retail. I tried several times to outsource the work that I needed to agencies, and every time it failed. I immediately regretted it. You'd engage with someone to do, 20 hours of PPC for you, and the agency would sell themselves well, but then be very inflexible as how that 20 hours of PPC was delivered for you. And retail just doesn't work like that. You have to be very agile. You have to be very responsive to what's going on around you. Competitor action can happen at any time. And you need to be fast moving on that front. And agencies just couldn't do that. Yeah. So what the business evolved as was not really we sold branded footwear. So I said Dr. Martens, but Converse, UGG boots. Yeah. Anything, any high street branded footwear, we sold at on clogs.co.uk. But the business wasn't really a footwear specialist in its buying. It was a specialist in its e-commerce. So I had big teams of SEOs, PPCs, team of web developers. We were an e-commerce business, first and foremost. We were very good at being found online. So when I exited that business, it was that set of skills that I had, how to manage an e-commerce team, not necessarily spotting the next big winner of a pair of Converse. So it was very much that skill I took from that business.
And so fast forward, so is it eight years you've been in agency world?
Yeah, so I started getting into it in 2016. So
fast forward to today, then what does the agency look like now? So you have a very, I think, specialist agency, it would be fair to say.
Yeah.
Sort of step us through the sort of, your sort of USP and how important that's been for the success of the agency.
Sure. I mean, as I say, agencies sort of found me. When I was taking a bit of a hiatus from work, a bit of a sabbatical, I was just helping friends out with their websites. Shopify was becoming it wasn't an emerging technology, it'd been around for a few years already, but it was becoming a credible e-commerce platform.
Yeah.
It was starting to break through with fast-growing businesses, and the technology I thought that Shopify had was incredible. The previous business I had a similar web platform. It was called vendor.com. It was cloud-based software as a service website provision, and that's what we had. And I loved that model. It meant I didn't have to be so involved with the mechanics of my website. It was provided for me. We could make it look pretty. And Shopify used that model and reinvented it and came up with a web platform that was better and $40 to launch a website. So the barrier to entry was just suddenly incredible.
Changed,
that changed the e-commerce market for small, medium businesses. The barrier to entry to get in was now so accessible to everybody. So that was right at the point that I left and was getting into agency land. And my first employee was a web developer who built Shopify websites. He's still with me today. And before I knew it, I was employing people to help support consultancy work. And then I just thought it'd be quite interesting to go, well, actually, I hated agencies. Can I create an agency for retailers that gets what it's like to be a retailer on the front line with you? And let me build a team of people who are your outsourced e-commerce team, who know what it's like on a Monday morning, looking at trade reports, looking at competitor action, and can use their bag of skills and tools to go, right, we need to be active here, we need to be doing that, very much through a retail lens. And that's the agency tagline. We're an agency founded by retailers for retailers.
I love it.
We built a customer base of predominantly fashion retailers, but actually it's transferable across a lot of retailers. We have a good bunch of retailers in like gifting and the motor industry, who all had this challenge of growing a business online, from managing their working capital, knowing that their stock's in the right place, and then marrying that up with demand. And that's very much the life I led for 15, 16 years as a retailer that I then put imprint in the agency.
So you've got that experience, which obviously resonates very much with the founders, marketers, or founders and people responsible for the P&L at whoever you're speaking to. You've lived that. You've had it from both sides, and that's very clear on your branding and your messaging and your brand story. Looking at the website, so I would say that's that sort of very clear focus from the get-go. Looking at your brand is very, very strong. I think that's where quite a lot of agencies go wrong. They try and do too many things, but obviously when you get to a certain size, I think you soon realize that you're spinning too many plates and maybe not great at all those things. Whereas very, very focused agency, seems to be, quite a thread of the conversations I'm having during this journey in the podcast.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. Like, niching down is a really important part of it, particularly, I think, with the emergence of technologies like Shopify. It's a double-edged sword. One gives you something to build a service proposition around, but then it also gives lots of other agencies the gateway into being a Shopify agency. Like, we were one of a handful of Shopify agencies of any note in the 2017, 2018, 2019. Now, the landscape is full of Shopify partners and Shopify agencies that are out there. So you do have to niche down into what makes you unique.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. When we first started, it was a case of, let's get clients. Let's get cash flow. Let's get some case studies. And it was across the board. But yet, certainly over time, it's been a case of, let's make that proposition. And it is quite unique. Though many Shopify agency owners that I meet and friends with, they're creatives that have got into it, or marketeers that have got into it, or developers that have got into it, and they then broaden out to e-commerce. Whereas I can't think of anyone who's a former
previous retailer. Yeah, no, I think that is unique. I would say I'm not aware of any, and we've done. We're closing in on 200 episodes of our podcasts. So I think you are quite.
So I have to market it.
Yeah, and I love that. And I think key takeaway there for the listeners is that sort of brand story, that uniqueness, that focus, that absolute niche down. Obviously, a Shopify Plus agency owned and operated by a very experienced retailer. So that's probably first takeaway. So obviously, you've got that experience, from, we're going back some time. You've seen it from back in the day when it was it probably cost tens of thousands to build a website back in the day. And then now, like you say, $40 or whatever it is for Shopify. And obviously then you go Shopify Plus and so forth. And, so things have changed considerably. You've got all that experience, but obviously building a successful agency takes a few other levers that need to be focused on, around the sales, the marketing, the staffing. What are maybe three core areas that you're focused on now? What are the three things as an agency owner that you're sort of very focused on?
Yeah, sure. It took me a long time to work out the agency model. So, I mean, I say I'm a retailer in my skin. I get working capital, merchandising of stock, where my attention needs to be focused. Shifting that into agency, I did find quite jarring for a few years. It took me a while to work it out. And the equivalence to me was sort of, actually, my stock is my staff. And I need to make sure my staff are well trained. I need to make sure they're looked after and they're happy here. They're the people I'm selling, and I need to make sure that they are happy here. And I'm investing in them and their careers. So that was a bit of a penny dropping moment for me to kind of understand that the success of the agency will be limited and promoted by my ability to retain talent and help them grow. So I've very much had that as a focus over the last 3 or 4 years. The agency tagline that we use, I guess under the four retailers for retailers kind of motto, is innovate, deliver, delight. So those are kind of three aspects of the agency that we are religiously working on together to make sure that we're keeping ourselves sharp. What are we innovating each year? How are we delivering on our promises? And how are we making sure that when those promises land, our clients are delighted? But then also, turning that backwards in on ourselves as well. So from a personal perspective, how are we innovating ourselves? How are we upskilling our skill base each year? What training are we doing? How are we making sure that we don't just put that as a sentiment, we do deliver it from year to year, and that we're happy with the journey that we take and we're delighting ourselves. So we have those two kind of pathways that we do focus on and we have kind of frameworks that we deliver those against and are checking in regularly.
I guess going back to the staff piece, I completely agree. You're innovative. You're not just saying it as a thing on your website to generate business. Ultimately, you're trying to attract and retain key members of staff. Now, when they've been there a year, 2, 3 years, you said the guy that started with you still with you. Obviously, to retain those people, innovation and changing things and trying things and testing things. is not just a way to have successful clients, but obviously it's a great place to work, isn't it? And it's somewhere where strong people are going to want to be, which is key to retaining. Yeah,
that absolutely. I remember now the feeling of recruiting my first 2 or 3 members of staff. We were a startup agency, and these were bright people with coming out from university, looking for careers in Birmingham.
Yeah,
of which there's lots of opportunities. And I remember them taking the punt on coming to work for me. And there was, we're a startup. We haven't got any clients yet. Are you sure you're And the kind of, it was quite emotional, actually, the sentiment that they were putting that faith in me. And they were going to go, we'll back you to grow this business. And employee 1 and employee 2 are actually still with me.
That's great.
And I've always just thought to myself, like, if they're willing to do that for me, I've got to make sure I'm doing that. I don't want this to be a transient career move for you. You're just getting a job, and in 6 months' time, you'll look for the next best ship. I want you to come to this business and want to be here in 10 years' time. I don't want you to feel like this is a short-term thing. So, and I guess that is some testament to how we then try to structure it. But constantly trying to be evolving, evolution, not revolution. Let's incrementally together make the step forwards.
So do you have how do you structure so you've got the team, obviously you're in a big city, and that's can be great, but obviously there's a lot more opportunity for team members, but there's also a lot more opportunity for you to attract more team members. So do you run like traction, for example, EOS, where you're getting the team together on and running through the vision and the 1-year plan, the 3-year plan, and so forth, to get buy-in, to get commitment, and get them to work with you to build that? How do you sort of get that across the team?
Employee engagement is really important to get that kind of trust going both ways. So we have regular company updates. Our kickoff one is a week on Friday, where we'll be sharing the company vision for the year, ideas, how it's evolved from last year. So you wait for the previous year to end. Get the financials, so you know where you are, so you know what you're able to do, maybe. So you've got the sort of beginning of January to collate and get the management accounts or end of year done, know where you are, and then back in January, you're planning more so, or confirming the plan, then presenting that plan in February to the team. Yeah, exactly. We do quarterly updates, but we have a big one in January. So it'll be first week of Feb, but the kickoff one at the start of the year is the big one, and we have an away day, and it's a company presentation in the morning from the leaders of the business, and then breakout sessions, and then team building exercising after. So it's a full-on event, and we're quite generous with the information that we share. We go into quite a lot of detail about the profitability and where we can where we need to work on, so they can understand where their hard efforts, what it's manifesting in terms of position of the business. And then what are the areas what are the stones that we need to turn over in order to make it even better. We have it takes a month to get ready for the February update, because we go through something called black box thinking, which is a great framework that Matthew Said wrote a book on a few years back, which is one of the first business books I read, called black box thinking, which is all about how you understand failure. Obviously comes from the aviation industry, but embracing failure, so that it never happens again, and that you get better. It's a great business principle. So we have black box sessions in the business that filter at every level, that filters its way up into the higher echelons, and then that's all digested during January, which we've just gone through, and that gets kind of then processed into a what. So
how many years have you been running that process where you do a full company update? Is it a more recent thing, or?
I've done company updates since day one. But it's become a more substantial thing. Probably since we got back from lockdown. So the last 2 or 3 years, it's become an event as opposed to me sharing information.
So you say away day, so you're away, you book somewhere that's obviously not the office, and you spend the day there and turn it into it's a nice event. Or a nice hotel or something, or you stay over, or?
We haven't stayed over, but we've done like canoeing down the canals. bowling and escape rooms, and it's always, there's a lot on our doorstep, which we're very fortunate about. So and they're all local, so it's the requirement for stopovers isn't necessarily there. Although we have started talking about doing like an away weekend, team building weekend this year. Although it hasn't come to plans yet, but
no, I love that. I'll have to have a look at the black box thinking. That's not something I've got actually, that book or that process. So that sounds fantastic. With quite a lot of leaders that we speak to, seem to run quite a lot the traction and the EOS methodology. Okay. But I love that sort of getting the team together, obviously getting them on board. Getting them to be involved in that process.
Ask me anything questions as well, so they can do. There's always a session where they can just like, what is on your mind? Talk to me about it. So it's a very much kind of an open policy, honesty policy of just like if we could be forthright with the information and honest with what we're telling you, then I don't mind you asking me anything you want about payroll. Inflation, cost of living, just ask me and I'll tell you what we can do.
So question then, are you open with everyone's salary? Does everybody know what everybody earns? To the penny?
Not to the penny, but we do give a lot of transparency around bandings, and we help people understand the entry levels for bandings, where you can get up to within that band, and then what are the mechanics by which you get to the next band. So we have done that. That was a big piece of work we did about 18 months ago with local recruiters to establish what those bands should look like. And share that with the team. So everyone will have a sense of what everyone else is on, because then
they're on a particular band. There's like a matrix. They know that they've got to be able to do X, Y, Z to move to that next band, and then obviously they can spend the next months or year or so to work on those skills. You're invested in them to move through the bandings and then the various promotions. I like that a lot. Okay, so I think we'll talk about new business. I think that's we're sitting here towards the beginning of the year, and I think it's no secret that the back of last year was quite challenging, I think, for retailers. Not all retailers and agencies, a little bit. So what are some of the things that you're doing in terms of new business to get new business over the line?
For us, I would say the back end of 2022 was the challenging time for us. Because we predominantly, I don't know whether we were out of sync because we work again predominantly with retailers, but one of my feelings as a retailer is we were always first in, first out of difficult economic times. The retailers always felt the pinch first, but we're always the first to then get out of it. And I felt like back in 2022 was a challenge for my clients, and that manifested itself to us at the back end then. So we kind of were doing the black box thinking around these challenges at the start of last year and what we needed to do to change it. So I think we then had a much better 2023 as a result of kind of maybe hitting some of those challenges earlier in the cycle. But we stopped chasing any type of business or retailer. We as we said at the start, it was about niching into a very particular channel for us. It was about growing our existing clients that were doing well, and the next best new client is the growth of an existing, not necessarily someone who's new. So we spent a lot of time just making sure we were delivering and helping them grow.
For existing,
for new business. We changed our CRM system, which was a bit of a game changer for us in the summer.
What's the tech stack looking like there?
Well, so we'd been on HubSpot for years trying to make HubSpot work, and I just found HubSpot way too expensive, really clunky. I think it's geared at much bigger businesses, and they've tried to break into like the small business kind of ecosystem. It just doesn't.
When you start adding those seats, it gets very expensive.
It gets very expensive across the board, and it's just like it becomes too cumbersome to work properly. We changed to a CRM called Copper, Copper CRM, which was really well integrated with Gmail. It's part of the Google Workspace ecosystem. And that freed up a new approach to our CRM that we hadn't had previously in terms of reactivation flows and just comms with the existing clients. So we were able to really up our game from a CRM point of view. and improve our outbound marketing from there.
Mm.
We've been quite fortunate. We don't have to do much outbound. It's mainly referral led.
Do you do any events like locally, like or different? Like obviously you say the majority of your clients are sort of fashion and obviously retail as well.
Yes.
Retailers. Do you do sort of fashion specific, niche specific events or niche specific campaigns yourself?
We put a lot of effort into events. 2022, mid 2023. We were probably running an event a month. We had a few different brands. There's a meetup. There was a social circle event and a We Are Girl Code event that we kind of ran every 3 months, but it was one of those events a month. And we just found it very hard work. It didn't actually drive that much new business. We had good attendance, always good engagement with it, but just the actual tangible output from it was quite hard to measure. So we're kind of rethinking what the event strategy should look like. We still attend a lot of events in the industry. So we do regular events down in London and so on. But in terms of gearing our own and leading our own events, we're kind of going back to the drawing board with it. So it was a difficult one.
I bet it seems
investment in time didn't necessarily pay off in the way that we wanted it to.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting one. I think I'm seeing a lot more agencies doing events, but I think more so because to go and exhibit at some of the bigger events, it's tens of thousands of pounds. So I think, hang on, we'll do our own event, but it is quite a tricky. Events can be quite a tricky one. Getting people on, getting the bums on seats to start with is quite challenging, but then it's getting the right bums on seats is even more challenging, sort of thing. So
and they're very unlikely to be in a position to buy, and the buying cycle is very long. So how do you marry up whether someone saw you at an event or attended an event and then came back to you? It's really a trade-off of time for me. I found that we were investing a lot of time across the agency in preparing for and delivering the events.
Yeah.
And that time could be so much better spent on clients and personal PR. And that for me is just keep to those principles.
So personal PR for yourself, you mean? Like for the leaders in your business?
And the staff, we've encouraged the staff to tell us what they want to achieve from a personal PR perspective.
Yeah.
And get them more active on LinkedIn or get them more active going to events or giving them authorship of white papers and case studies and blogs. So they feel proud to then circulate it. I think that sort of grassroots PR is better, has a better payoff and on both sides than events. And it's, I like the idea of doing this because it does keep you sharp. It does force you to get materials together and presentations together, but I don't think it necessarily has to be at the frequency which we were trying to run. And I think, a bigger event less frequently is the way we'll approach it in the future.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. So new business, revenue generation, you sort of changed a few different things, but a big focus on retention, obviously keeping clients long term, which goes without saying. What are some other, when you get into the sort of brass tacks of that, you talk about innovation, and innovation no doubtedly leads to retaining team, retaining clients, but on the actual coalface day to day, what does that look like, in terms of the active things that you're doing to retain and impress the clients?
Yeah, so I say to the guys downstairs that if a client ever comes to ask us for a product, we've done something wrong. I want us to be 2 steps ahead of where their head's at. So we've got to be thinking about where their business is heading and what it's doing, either from a successful point of view, and then we've got to be thinking about what the next marketing channel they're going to want is.
Yeah.
Or if a tactic isn't working, what can we be suggesting before the client knows it's not working? So if we're challenging ourselves that way, we are thinking of the products and services they need from us before the client knows they need it.
So you're very proactive.
We're very proactive about it. We will have, war rooms, have scale-up sessions.
And are the clients in some of those, or are you doing these without the client and then obviously then saying, right,
the clients know we do them. Yeah, the clients know we do them, but we do them on our own, and we feed back to them what we feel like we should be doing as objectives in the next quarter.
War room, that sounds serious.
Yeah. War rooms came as the terminology through the pandemic, and it kind of just stuck as, what is our version of everyone getting together to work out how we get through this? And so let's have like these Churchillian war rooms where we just get together and work out what the battle plan is.
Nobody leaves.
Nobody leaves until we work out what the plan is.
Yeah.
And that name kind of stuck. And then we changed it to scale up sessions because of it sounded too serious. But But they work really well. It's a safe space. Right? Anyone can say anything, and it's no criticism of anything we've done in the past. But if it's just not working, it's just not working. We've got to work out why.
No, I think that's great. I think that's a real takeaway for the listeners. You've no doubt you're doing X amount of hundreds of thousands or a million or two as an agency, depending on who's listening. But ultimately, retaining those clients and working with them, to take them from their million to their 50 million. What the opportunity for your agency is just massive. And I think that does get lost a lot. A lot of agencies that are trying to say break the million, for example, in turnover. I see too much of a focus on acquisition, not enough focus on innovating. Like you're saying, innovating equals retention.
Yes.
Your clients know you're doing a war room for them literally every quarter, or a scale up session. Which just saying it out loud, it's obvious you should be doing things like that. We're looking for opportunities, different markets, different platforms, different avenues to launch their products, trying different things. Yeah.
Yes. I want clients to fundamentally know that we've got their back.
Yeah.
And we might not be writing you an email. You might not be on a phone call with us, but behind the scenes, we're working on your problem, and we are genuinely working on your problem. And this is how it manifests itself. And you will proactively get this sort of feedback from us. We will challenge some of the things that you think you should be doing.
I think that's quite an important one, isn't it? Obviously challenging them and sort of, hang on a minute, actually, obviously business owners and senior marketeers can be quite headstrong, shall we say, and they've got their ideas, and they're familiar with what they're seeing, and that's great.
Yeah.
But obviously you've got, in theory, and should have a wider lens on everything as you're looking after a lot of brands, maybe in a certain industry, or just seeing patterns and what's working in, this has changed in XYZ, TikTok, this, that, and the other, or whatever platform you're focused on for other clients. Obviously, that can transition across.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we found a very similar sort of pattern in that, the real good clients that we've got, the real sort of, if you like, the ones that are just a real good fit, really progressive, working with them deeper, and then ultimately being able to do more for them, which is win-win for both of us. Yeah.
Absolutely. And our clients are our best marketing tool at the end of the day as well. So if we are delighting them, if we're growing them, they'll give us the great testimonials. They'll refer people in. It's a very kind of self-sufficient, self-satisfying, self-fulfilling, process. So you absolutely, and I think we've been there in terms of acquisition as well. Those early years, it's like acquire, but and you have to recompose your client base as you go, because when you're acquiring in that pace, there's inevitably places where it just doesn't fit. The partnership doesn't work, and you've got to recompose your client base to be the fit that's working across both sides. And
that is
you get to that level.
Yeah, when it
works.
You're scaling, you begin. Yeah, you take anything, I think, is the reality of life. When you're starting, within reason, I'll put my hand up and say, yeah, we did. Back in the day. But obviously, the idea would be to build in a way that you're finding the type of clients that you like to work with. You can perform better for. You can help more. And obviously targeting those with your messaging like you are. So you're attracting those more perfect fit, those ICPs that are, and then obviously ultimately selling them more, and it's a win-win for both sides. Yeah. So how well do you sleep at night?
Good question. I sleep really well now.
Yeah.
It wasn't always good. I have worked really hard at sleeping better. I know it's, I've been on a bit of a kind of life journey, I would say, since I turned 40 a few years ago, and understanding what I need to do to improve myself physically and mentally to be a better person, healthier person.
Yeah.
And sleep was one of the things I identified straight away I was terrible at. And I had very disrupted sleep. All the worries of being a business owner. Not necessarily worries, but just active mind. You know,
thinking. Yeah,
very difficult to shut off.
Yeah,
3 o'clock in the morning, New Year Day pops in, and you just obsess about that for the next 3 hours till you wake up. It's very, very difficult. So I've worked quite hard at bedtime routine to sleep better at night, and it definitely, you see the improvements, the health benefits from it.
Have you got any sort of go-to routines? Are you big on sort of no tech before the last couple of hours of going to bed, or half an hour maybe, or you're a bit of a, do you do your sort of any sort of fitness routines in an evening, try and switch off, or have you got any sort of personal routines that work well for you?
Yeah, I've attacked on a few fronts. One is like no caffeine after 4 o'clock in the afternoon, although that's probably still a bit too late, but I was drinking cups of tea till quite late in the past. Giving up the tech before bed has been the hardest one, because there's interesting information on my phone, not necessarily checking emails. I'm quite good at turning off emails and stuff, but there's just interesting stuff to read online and so on. But that's been the toughest one to get rid of. The best thing I did is stop watching streaming dramas before I go to bed. That sounds crazy, but like
one more episode.
Yeah. Or if you binge Breaking Bad or
it never ends,
Sons of Anarchy or something, it's just, they're absolutely brilliant and engrossing dramas, but then your head's just awake with it for the rest of the night. So I've cut out watching TV programs, and that's been the biggest change, because that quietens the mind down. And then reading something on my phone, things like that. I naturally.
You're a reader of actual physical books, or you're more of a Kindle on your phone?
I'm definitely a reader of physical books. Like I'm from that generation pre-devices. I love I love the feel of a physical book, breaking the back. Seeing your progress go through it.
Yeah, nothing like a good.
That's
hard.
100%. So I read several books. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that seems to be a common trait with a lot of people we've spoken to. I think there's always whether that's a personal development, thousands to go at, whether that's the latest SEO edition of the art of SEO, or whether that's the latest Shopify, blah blah blah. There's always almost too much, isn't there? So you do have to be careful where you put your focus. So I'd like to end with a couple of maybe practical tips from you and sort of resources, in terms of like your tech stack at your agency. You talked about Copper on your CRM. What other things are you using in your agency that you sort of couldn't live without?
So we are just, again, the big kind of tech improvement last year was our Copper CRM.
Yeah.
The rest of our tech stack was held together or had grown very organically, let's say, from lots of other different things. We need something to do that. 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 We Slack, Asana, Notion.
So you're using Asana still?
Well, we're retiring Asana. Is where we actually come to Harvest for time tracking, and there was just a whole bunch of tech that we were using across the board that was good when we first deployed it for a specific need, but as the agency was growing and so on, it was just coming way too cumbersome. So we've done with our operations manager, as Fran has done some scoping for the last 3 or 4 months of all different techs that are out there, what the plan is for 2024, and she's come to a view that a lot of these things are going to retire and going to be replaced with a platform called Teamwork. So we're just in the process of retiring a lot of that stuff. And Teamwork.
So Teamwork does the time tracking, does the project management, does the comms, does the files, etc. Yeah, all this. It's interesting dilemma, isn't it? You're sort of that journey of this new thing. 2 years later, no one's using that thing, and I found this, and then
honestly, I mean, that's and you accumulate, you collect all these monthly SaaS charges at like
Yeah.
$15 a month per user for this, $15 a month, and
Yeah,
spending
huge.
thousands of pounds a month. And you think, well, hang on a second, anyone got a control or more? So we go through it periodically. To some extent, I don't mind trialing all these different things. It's that's the way you discover it. But yeah, periodically you've got to go kind of draw a line under it and go, who's actually getting use out of this and what do we need to do as a result? So yeah, teamwork is going to be the 2024.
Oh, interesting. I'll have to have a catch up with you in 6-12 months, see how you're getting on with teamwork.
Yeah, hopefully, we've got on top of it and it's working.
Yeah.
So,
well, thanks, Chris. It's been a pleasure having you on the show. Last couple of quick questions. So what are your sort of maybe a couple of focuses for the next 12 months?
Well, it's to continue on the vein of innovation, really. I think we were very good at the delivering and delighting last year, particularly with the kind of view of growing existing clients and delivering on promises and so on. I think there's a lot of innovation going around, and there's maybe a bit of catch up for us to do on that front. So yeah, we're really looking at a product launch timeline for 2024 with a bit more clarity than we perhaps looked at in the past. So we've got some really great things that we're going to be launching in March, actually, with one of our clients, but you can stay tuned for that product launch. But yeah, they're really kind of trying to lead the way on new products that we're offering as an agency and so on. So we've also got a sister agency that we've just launched, which remiss of me not to mention, but Pi Financial, its baked goods sister, is now a focus for the agency in 2024. So where Cake supports businesses from an e-commerce perspective, we've launched Pi to help with management accounting. So I actually started before I went online. As I mentioned at the start, I started training as an accountant. So I've always been on top of the books, and being on top of management accounting information. I help a lot of clients with it already. But we've launched Pi to help our clients get their books in order and
that's brilliant.
Prepare management accounts, help them raise funds, and that's headed up by a great MD called Julie Bailey, who's joined me in that business with a great M&A background.
Yeah, well, let us know when that's live. We'll tag that up because I'm a massive believer in sort of monthly managements. You know, when you can get, when you're at a point, obviously it varies on agency to agency, but obviously ideally monthly managements. But if you're not doing any management, start with quarterly managements and go from there. We'll tag that up. Well, thanks, Chris. I like to finish every episode with a book recommendation. Do you have a book to recommend to our listeners?
I'll give you two quick ones.
Oh.
Best business book I've read, this business biography, is Shoe Dog by Phil Knight.
Yeah.
Read that last summer, picked it up, couldn't put it down.
Yeah.
Business biographies go. That is a really great set of concepts and approaches to how to keep a business successful, and obviously his success is second to none, really. The book I'm reading at the moment that I would also recommend is Outlive by Peter Attia, which is a health book on how to improve yourself physically and mentally, and is all about longevity and health span. But I see it as a business book, looking after yourself and making yourself a better physical person is all about making sure you're a better athlete to perform as a business person. So those two different angles of book recommendations, but Outlive for me is one that is just, every page I'm reading at the moment is just eye-opening, and I wish I could share it with everybody. So
thank you for that. That's going to be ordered in about 20 seconds. Outlive, that sounds right up my street as well.
Really
well, thanks, Chris. For those that want to find out more about you, more about the agency and the other projects, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn, so you can find me on there, Christopher Thomas, and at Cake.agency. So
brilliant. Well, thanks for coming on the show.
Come and check us out.
I look forward to speaking to you again.
Lovely. Thanks for having me on, Richard. Thank you.
If you enjoyed this episode, hit the subscribe or follow button wherever you are listening to this podcast. So you're always the first to know when a new episode is released. Have a fantastic day, and I'll see you on the next one.